This is Michael Hedlog and Eli Dahlman reporting live to you from Fleming Island High School. And you are watching R.B. Taylor 1956 on YouTube.com.
Thanks for that great introduction, Eli and Michael. And now we're going to continue with HIPCO and identify each individual letter in that acronym. And that should be a whole video right there. Let's do it. Alright, so I'm going to go through each one of these now. And if that takes too long, then I'm going to stop when I get to the O. How about that? Let's see how it goes. Alright, so let's start with habitat loss. Habitat loss happens in a couple of different ways. First of all, it is the single greatest cause of decline for most species. You take away their home, where are they going to live? These organisms are not smart. They can't just pack their bags and go somewhere else to live. All right, they live where they live. They have their little role in the ecosystem. They have their little niche. And if they can't provide that niche anymore, if they can't be there to be eaten, or if their food source isn't there, so they can't thrive, they're done. So the single greatest cause of decline in biodiversity is habitat loss. And most of that happens because of human development. Are there other natural causes of habitat loss? Of course. A forest fire, a naturally occurring forest fire, a volcano erupts, and all the lava comes down the side of that mountain and wipes out the forest that's on the side of the mountain. That would be a natural habitat loss. But think about the speed with which we are cutting into the land and destroying the homes of the furry little creatures, like the squirrels. This map here shows you where in the world we're having problems with forests. We're actually making a comeback here in the U.S. because we have passed laws since the early 1900s to protect our forests. So we're doing pretty good. But you can see the areas where deforestation is becoming a big, big problem. Developing countries, the Amazon River Basin, right? This is tropical rainforest material, right? The equator goes right through here like this here. There you go. The tropical rainforest in Africa, the tropical rainforests in Indonesia. These are areas that are being deforested at an alarming rate. We're trying to get these countries to stop. Yes, even Russia is digging in and not protecting their forests like they ought to. Besides habitat destruction, we also have this thing called habitat fragmentation. And all that really means is we're cutting into the forest. We may not be cutting down all the trees, but we're creating roads right through the woods. Just so that we can get in there. Maybe it's a logging road so that we can cut down some trees. Even if we're going to cut down these trees in an environmentally friendly way, that is to say we don't cut them all down. It's called selective cutting, and we'll cover that in another chapter. But this fragmentation causes damage to species. Some species just cannot move. Something as simple as a road will keep them penned in and keep them from being able to spread out like they used to be able to before we did the fragmentation by building a road in the woods or something like that. And of course the coral reef, the most important and biodiverse ecosystem in the oceans, and because they are so close to the coastlines, and we humans live there, and we humans are producing all of the chemicals and all the pollutants, they end up dumping into the oceans near the coastlines. Unfortunately, that's where the coral reefs are, and you can see the percent of live coral cover has gone down significantly just since the 70s. Big drop off. That's awful. Now, it could not just be from pollution, it can also be from temperature changes, salinity changes, or pH changes. The coral reef is very sensitive to all of those things. But those pH changes and salt changes are all happening because of human activities. Some of them we've already talked about. All right, the I in HIPCO stands for invasive species. And just from the way the name indicates, it lets you know what an invader is. It's a species that does not belong, right? But it is aggressive. Invader species have a high reproductive rate. We will learn about what R selected means in Chapter 6. They are tough little buggers. They're pioneer species. They can get started in a wide variety of ecosystems and survive. They live a long time. They have great dispersal. You get the idea. These are species that can thrive. And so you introduce them in an ecosystem they don't belong, and they are ready for it. And then ecosystems that might be vulnerable to an invader attack. If the place has a similar climate, if there's no predator that will start to eat the invader, if there are early successional systems, we'll learn about that in Chapter 7, and you get the idea. No fire really hurts a forest's ability to regrow trees. So we're not just talking about animals here, we're talking about trees as well. And in fact, one of the great examples of an invasive species is kudzu. Kudzu, of course, is from Japan, and it's a decorative vine that we introduced. We brought over from Japan because it grows. It's kind of pretty, it's green, it's large, and it grows fast. So we brought kudzu over here, and it was used mainly by construction companies that wanted to sort of cover up their construction works and kind of make the areas pretty and green along the sides of whatever construction work was done. When I think of kudzu, I think of the interstate system. We see it all up and down the interstates, and these kudzu vines, they choke out every other plant that grows there. And they take over. They grow really, really quickly. Another story is the story of the zebra mussel. I got some pictures to show you of these two things. All right, an alien species is a species that doesn't belong, but they may not be as aggressive about it, so they're not invasive, so to speak, as much as they are just in a place that they don't belong. They are sometimes called exotic species. And when you think of that, you can think of something like the guy that's got a boa constrictor in his apartment, He thinks it's cool to have an exotic pet like this. Well, guess what? If they get loose, they're going to do some real damage because there's nothing in the ecosystem that will kill them. The zebra mussel story is an interesting one. The zebra mussels came over from Russia. These tiny little bivalves were attached to the inside ballast of those merchant ships, and they came down the St. Lawrence Seaway, over here from across the Atlantic down the St. Lawrence Seaway, and these zebra mussels have no natural predator. They are everywhere now, all in the northeast portion of the United States. They're found just about everywhere. These red dots are ports in which the zebra mussels have been found. They grow at a tremendous rate. Nothing kills them, and so they end up bothering the ecosystem. Of course, they unbalance the ecosystem, but they even bother us. The first time we discovered zebra mussels is because they had built up over some of our water intake pipes in some of these lakes. Many of the cities, the important cities along the Great Lakes, this is where they get their drinking water. They pump it from the Great Lakes. They have to treat it first, obviously. But so they're pumping water out, and the water's not coming out. And they're saying, what's going on here? They send some divers down, and they see billions and billions of zebra mussels growing all around the piping that these public works places are using. And it was slowing down their ability to pump water out. So now they had to find a way to get rid of them. That's part of the zebra mussel story. Here's kudzu. Kudzu's found in most of the southeastern United States because this is the climate that it likes to grow in. It started out here, but now it has moved up north into Pennsylvania, New York. It is hardy. It will grow anywhere. Look, it's growing on a car, an abandoned old car. And of course, the bad part really about this from the ecosystem perspective is it will choke out any other kind of plant life that it comes in contact with. It grows fast, it grows hard, it uses up all the resources, blocks the sun, and all those problems associated with plant life because of kudzu. All right, the first P stands for pollution. Here are the pollutants I want you to remember. We're going to cover all of these in another chapter, but let's talk about them. First of all, if there's more people on Earth than ever before, then there's more farms than ever before. And if there's more farming than ever before, there's a greater use of pesticides than ever before. And pesticides have this unique feature. They don't go away in the ecosystem. The word is persistent. Pesticides are persistent, so they stay in the environment for a long time after they're sprayed. Oh, they might do the job for the farmer, but they are around and end up in runoff all over. Heavy metals, especially our usage of chemicals such as cadmium, nickel. In fact, you might have heard of a NiCad battery. These rechargeable batteries that are in iPods, iPads, your cell phone, all of these devices that we recharge all the time use nickel and cadmium. And those batteries just end up in a regular old landfill. Those chemicals seep into the environment. Other heavy metals that you should be aware of, I'd like you to write down: mercury, lead. We've known about these chemicals for a while now, and we've taken steps to protect ourselves from them. But these heavy metals are in the environment, causing damage to us, and of course, this is all about causing damage to individual species. Acids, we've talked about it already many times, the number of different species that cannot handle big changes in pH or they will die. And oil spills. I've got some video to show you about that when we cover the fossil fuels and the non-renewable resources. So you'll see exactly why oil spills are a particular threat to lots of different species when they happen. The second P was population growth, human population growth. We don't need to talk much more about that. I'm sure that's just common sense to you. And of course we have number 5 then, the C. C is climate change. Climate change is a big deal because many species will not be able to adapt to changes that occur in temperature or in precipitation. You know, this is mostly true of the plants, but let's not forget that the alteration of the ecosystem might be a flood. It might be increased flooding. Not necessarily the temperature or the precipitation, but the fact that the sea levels will rise. And so intertidal species that used to live in the intertidal zone because they could live on land part of the time, will now be completely underwater all of the time. So that could destroy their ability to adapt. And then the O. The O stands for over-harvesting. Let's see, one definition that you need to write down. Poaching. Poaching is the illegal hunting of organisms. This is the picture of the passenger pigeon here. The passenger pigeon is something that we here in the United States have. No, I think this is a dodo bird. Now that I mention it, I'm not sure. Anyway, the American bison, the passenger pigeon, are species that we personally have hunted almost to extinction because they were of great value to us, because we loved them. Every part of them was valuable. You know, the bison, you could use the skin, you could use the fur, you could use the hooves, and you could eat the meat. Passenger pigeons were good because they were big, plump birds that were slow and easy to shoot out of the air, and there were millions of them in our skies prior to around 1900. I think the last passenger pigeon was killed in about 1916 or something like that. But we hunted them to extinction. Of course, in today's world, Our big worry is the fishing industry and overfishing, because there are so many people. Populations are booming in cultures that eat a lot of fish. We are overfishing a lot of areas of our ocean. All right, I'm tired of talking. So I think I will finish this video right here and right now. The second half is just about laws and things that we've done to solve this big biodiversity problem. And we've done significant things. Even in developing countries, we have gotten the poor countries to commit to setting aside areas to protect them. So, until next time, I'll see you later.